Today we will be talking about Carol Gilligan's theory on women's moral development that was a response to Lawrence Kohlberg's stages of moral development. Before Carol Gilligan, all of the research was focused on young men's moral development, postulating that women were inferior and were to be judged based on the qualities found to be superior in men. First, a little history on Lawrence Kohlberg. He identified 6 stages of moral reasoning, with each stage being identified as having a different relationship between self and society. When he applied this theory to women, he found that women almost never progressed past the 3rd stage, interpersonally normative morality. In this stage, you conform to what is generally perceived as good by your relationships to those around you. For women to pass this stage, they would need to be challenged by a moral problem that would make them see past their current relationships. Gilligan, in her research, studied women to see why they could not pass that stage on Kohlberg's ladder, and discovered a feminine voice that was based in an ethic of care versus an ethic of justice. Gilligan's theory, which was originally published in 1977, is based on research she did with 29 women who are facing a decision about abortion, which is an area where they have the absolute power of choice. She discovered that the conventions that shape a woman's moral judgment differ than those that are applied to men. She identified 3 levels of moral development and 2 transitions that will be discussed using 3 women who are making the decision to get an abortion, who are at each of the 3 levels. Level 1 is orientation to individual survival. Sarah is an 18-year-old student and has recently discovered that she is pregnant. In this level of moral development, Sarah's decision about abortion centers around her selfish desires and concern for individual survival. The self is her sole object of concern. When asked about her decision to have an abortion, her answer is that she is more concerned about finishing school than having a child, and she simply did not want to have the baby. In order for Sarah to transition to level 2, she would have to seek another moral option and seek a connection to others. This first transition is called from selfishness to responsibility, where women are able to understand their decisions through what is right and wrong for society versus what they want and don't want. Level 2 is goodness as self-sacrifice. June is 24 years old and has recently discovered that she is pregnant. In the second stage of moral development, survival becomes based on social participation. Moral judgment comes to rely on the shared norms and expectations of a group. June's decisions are no longer based on what she wants. She is more concerned with the conflict of the decision as it affects others and not hurting anyone. After deciding to get an abortion, June avoids taking responsibility for the decision and instead places it on her peers, implying she made a sacrifice of her own needs in order to please those around her. In order for June to transition to level 3, she must question why she feels the need to put other individuals' needs before her own. When asking herself if her decisions are selfish or responsible, moral or immoral, she must also include her own needs, care, and concern. Level 3 is the morality of nonviolence. Megan is a 29-year-old woman and has recently discovered that she is pregnant. In the 3rd stage of moral development, the dichotomization of selfishness and responsibility disappears. Megan is able to assert a moral equality between herself and others. Care becomes a universal obligation, and nonviolence elevates to become a moral principle to govern her judgment and actions. Megan has a transformed understanding of self and thus a redefinition of morality. After going through the second transition, Megan now includes a respect for herself in her decisions. Reconciliation opens the door for Megan to recognize her power to select among competing choices and keep her needs within the mix of moral alternatives. Gilligan concluded that men and women frame moral judgment in 2 different ways: care and justice, and these relate to gender-specific self-concepts. Women's moral development focuses more on the interdependence of intimacy and care and stresses, at their expense, the importance and value of judgment and action. She continues to research this theory in regards to relationships, feminism, and societal values and norms. Gilligan's theory has been criticized for being too limiting in regards to its focus on women, and in the past 40 years has expanded to include both men and women. More research still needs to be done to determine the correctness of the levels and their influence on men and women's moral development. Since Gilligan's research, many other theorists have applied these concepts in studying male and female undergraduates in many areas of student life, such as counseling, residence life, career planning, service learning, student organizations, and leadership development. In conclusion, Gilligan argued for the need of an expanded developmental theory for understanding both sexes and the characteristics and precursors that establish an adult moral conception.